Brian, what are the differences between executors and trustees?
Yeah, well, we'll start with the executors. Everybody's going to need one someday. We're all going to pass away. And when we pass away, someone is put in charge of all of our stuff, basically, and settling the estate, whether that's going to the courts for probate, setting up any trusts that are provisions in the will or living trust, or if there is no will or living trust, now we got other issues to deal with. They have to file tax returns, a final 1040, perhaps an estate tax return, pay all the bills, settle any lawsuits and disputes, settle assets, deal with whatever's in the will. There's going to be all kinds of provisions in the will. Deal with the people. There's a lot to being an executor, and like I say, everybody's going to need an executor someday. And there's not a lot of people. If you think about, you look at your contact list on your phone, how many of these people are experienced at being an executor? Oops, you may not have any. And yet everybody's going to have one someday. So it's a very difficult job being an executor. It is different from being a trustee, though.
So you just said that there's a difference between an executor and a trustee. What is the main difference?
Yeah, with the executor, that happens when somebody passes away to execute the terms of the will. That is their job, or living trust. The trustee, you may or may not need a trustee, because if someone passes away and they leave all their assets to their 3 kids or whatever, okay, you've got to execute the terms of that will. However, maybe there's no trust provision set up. Maybe there isn't a spouse to put money into a marital exemption trust. Maybe there isn't a next generation trust, a family trust. There's no charitable trust. It just wasn't mentioned in the will. So you may not need a trustee. But if that will it has a provision in there saying, hey, when I pass away, I want X amount put into a trust for the grandkids, say. So that executor would have to say, oh, okay, that's one of the provisions of the will. I have to execute the terms of this will. I need to go find someone to set up this trust that was named in the will. I've got to make sure, the trustee has been selected. It should say that in the will. And then I will transfer the terms of that trust to that trustee. Now that trustee is in charge of that trust going forward. The executor is no longer part of the equation, unless they're the same person. But is no longer part of that equation. Now it's a trustee that would manage that trust as if it's their own, according to the terms of the trust, for as long as that trust is there or until they hand it off to a successor trustee.
Do executors and trustees receive a fee for their services?
They can. You can absolutely. It is commonplace, especially with complicated wills or trusts, that the executor would receive a fee for executing the terms of the will. Sometimes not, but very often there is. Trustees, that can be a corporate trustee, so they certainly get paid, but probably should be, because it's a lot of work. Don't underestimate how much work it is to be an executor. Do not underestimate how much work it is to be a trustee. It's a hard job, and most of us haven't done it before. It's stressful, and there can be some liability there, so compensation is certainly in order.
Brian, thanks for telling us more about executors and trustees.